Some officers have demonstrated disrespect for the people they are sworn to protect. Some have videotaped themselves throwing drinks at pedestrians from their cars, insulted people with disabilities, and called black people monkeys, animal, and boy. This conduct is unacceptable.
As of course, Merrick Garland announcing the DOJ releasing a 90-page report summarizing what they've found in their multi-year investigation into Louisville police that was launched in the wake of the tragic killing of Breonna Taylor back in March of 2020. And what they found, as you can already tell from that video, is absolutely devastating. The broad conclusions are incredibly worrying. Some of the specific things that they've uncovered are horrifying. It was pervasive. There were individually horrific acts, and there was a tolerance for discrimination, bias in how policing was done, brutality, insults, racial slurs. Pretty much everything you would not want to see in law enforcement was on offer daily with the Louisville police. And we're gonna jump into some of the most individually horrific acts of brutality that you might not already be familiar with. We're gonna turn to that in just a bit. But Sharon, I wanted to start off with you. What do you make of what they found in this investigation of Louisville?
It's sick, dogs biting people after they've already been subdued. The Attorney General mentions some of the other things. I will say this, I applaud and appreciate that the system is going to be held, in quotes, accountable here. But I do think the individuals who conduct and persecute and harm people also. We really did not see that with Breonna Taylor. It's slap on the wrist, so minimal, some receiving awards and praise. And so when the Attorney General says the word disrespect, I shouldn't be coming after him when there's so many other people to come after, but I do. It's beyond disrespect. And we need to call it what it is. It is looking at some as subhuman. Although I don't know that animals would be treated the way the police treat some people who happen to be black and brown, disabled, he mentioned. So I have mixed feelings. I want, John, the system held accountable, but I want to see the mugshots and the perp walks. And in this case, I am for more policing of them.
Yeah, I think hopefully for most people, we're way beyond anybody like buying this few bad apples thing or whatever.
Thank you.
But often, like we have this investigation. So I have some mixed feelings. I don't know if they're the exact same as yours, but it's like, oh, good. So now we have an administration that will actually launch these sorts of investigations. Under Trump, this would be either quashed or like stopped in its infancy. They weren't interested for 4 years in looking into these sorts of abuses. But then like you have the investigation. Okay, good, that's good. And they found a lot of this stuff, which is absolutely awful. And like now I'm wondering, so good, they'll get rid of some of those cops and who will replace them? And that's Louisville, one individual spot. Just yesterday on the Young Turks, we were talking about some of the new reporting on gangs in the LA Sheriff's Office, and it's just like every place across all of these states, across literally decades. It is like the word systemic is too small at a certain point. Like the size of the issue that we face, the difficulty in even trying to conceive of how you would reform something that is so fundamentally rotten at every single level, going back since before we were born. It's like even when we get the results of an investigation like this, it's like pretty disheartening.
Yeah, it is, and it's partnering with your abuser. These consent decree, we're going into business with the very people who couldn't get it right deliberately in the first place. Why not sign a presidential order that takes away any of their money? They're getting federal dollars. Take away their money, replace them with, if you must, something that has more oversight from the administration. And some would say, oh, well, this is a takeover. It's not really, it's not really. And I think that the people who live there should understand that there could be a sea change, an administration change. And like you said, just like the one before, here we go again. It's the system itself that is designed to attack those who are most vulnerable.
Yeah, and you also wonder, so they'll identify the people that did these individual things. And in a moment, we're gonna launch into one or two of them. And then who will remain? Like one would hope, well, the good cops, I guess, or people who, maybe they'll lose some of their coworkers that they have experience with, but they take pride in being cops, so they want the police to be the best that they can be. No, that's not what it is. Like they leave behind people who are incredibly resentful of how rude it was that you would look into their behavior, people who want this stuff to continue. They may not pop up in this reporting or whatever, but they don't have an actual problem with it. And this is why even when we fight so hard to move the population and then the population to get the right sorts of population or politicians elected to, for instance, launch new gun regulations or something like that, some sort of gun control. And then the police in multiple states are just like, no, we're not gonna do that. And who is the oversight body on that? Maybe Merrick Garland launches an investigation that 3 years later is like, well, it turns out that they were refusing to do what they were constitutionally bound to do. Great, that's awesome. And so again, it just gets to, like, I am the last person to give you a solution to this problem. I have no idea, but it is just such a deep problem. And it is not just about police training or particular outcomes of, when they go out there. It's the culture of policing, it's the training, it's the police unions, it's the politicians who are protecting them, the relationships that they have with, with prosecutors and all that. It's just such a deep foundational issue.
Yeah, and it's like, we just saw it in the Nichols case, right? You had a black police chief who surely had direct communication with a mayor about bringing crime down. And I'll close my eyes and put blinders on to the way in which you do it. And a man who was just trying to get a few feet to his mother's house is beaten to death. So, and you know who else is left behind, John? Who's left behind are the people who look the other way. You want to talk about, just a few bad apples. What about, you have to win the hearts and minds. That's like on any job. You have most of the people in the middle, then some real leadership, and then you have people over here who mean no good. There's a war for who's gonna win the room. And it's like that in police departments and cities. And so there's gotta be a greater initiative, a greater way to use perhaps people and how they perform and what they believe and change hearts and minds. Now, you said it's a heavy lift to reform police. I don't know how you do that, okay? I don't know how you win hearts and minds of people who have privilege and who have always gotten away with it or who look the other way. But that's what needs to be done here. They're not gonna take them by force.
Yeah, again, super complicated. I'm not the answer, but yeah, it needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked about. And so this is an opportunity. This will launch a little bit of news coverage today. Maybe there'll be a segment tomorrow. And then hopefully it'll have affected some people's opinions, because after that, you probably won't hear that much from it.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.